Imagine this. You suddenly have all this extra free time on your hands that you don't know what to do with. You realize there are a bunch of other things you could be doing right now that would be so much more productive in your life, but you choose not to do them because they're not satisfying, they're not fun, they bring no enjoyment, they're boring. So what do you do instead? Nothing. Because you're bored. We experience boredom when we're unsatisfied or uninterested in a certain activity. Boredom can occur when you feel energetic but don't have anywhere to direct that energy. I myself have been experiencing a lot of boredom lately, and it kind of sucks because I have all this extra time, but I'm having issues implementing that extra time and energy into something productive. And yes, I've tried watching all the productivity YouTubers, all those tips and hacks to try to motivate myself to start doing more productive things, but at the end of the day, that only gives you a short little boost and then eventually you'll come back down. However, I have found some tips that have actually worked for me to cure boredom in the most productive and beneficial way possible. And I would like to share those tips with you guys, as well as some tips of what not to do when you are feeling bored. Now, to make these tips somewhat interesting and unique, I am going to limit them to only your bedroom. You'll be surprised at how many things in your bedroom that you can do to cure your boredom. So with that said, let's move to our first tip, working out. When I'm feeling bored and don't know what to do, I like to do pull-ups just to get my heart rate going, get my reps in, and just feel better, because as soon as you do some type of workout, whether it's push-ups, dips, pull-ups, squats, you do feel better instantly because it releases endorphins after you do these workouts. And just like that, heart rate's up, I got a good pump, and I'm a little out of breath for doing 10 pull-ups. Now keep in mind, it doesn't just have to be pull-ups as your form of exercise, it can literally be anything. I just so happen to value fitness, so I have like this whole pull-up tower station in my bedroom, which I understand isn't normal for most people, but there's other ways to get some type of physical activity in as well, such as push-ups, squats, sit-ups, doing a handstand against a wall, whatever you can think of. The whole point here is to get your heart rate pumping and some type of physical activity in that will benefit you. I like to look at it as a video game. Any type of physical activity I do, such as a workout, is building experience points to level me up and just get me to the next level. Kinda nerdy example, but I think it makes sense. The nice thing about working out when you're bored, now that you've done some physical activity to get the blood pumping and rushing through your head, if you're in a creative rut, then it can drive more ideas to your brain to really get the juices flowing and maybe help you get past that writer's block. Usually, anytime I do some type of workout, I always feel much more motivated than I did before that workout. That's something I've learned over my years, and I would highly suggest that to anybody else out there who feels that they're unmotivated and just needs a little bit of a push. Something else I like to do, it's just handstands, because they're a great way to get the blood rushing to your head and to work on balance. And it just looks cool. Do this at your own risk. I definitely don't recommend doing it in such a tight space unless you're trained and somewhat experienced. I'd probably recommend just going up against a wall and putting your back to it. It's the safest way to learn and probably the easiest way to learn. Do that first. Now that we're done with our first tip of working out, let's move to our next tip, which is cleaning up. As you can see, my workspace is very messy right now, and my main workspace is also equally as messy. In general, my whole room is very messy, and while I try to keep a clean room, obviously we picked today where it is not in its cleanest environment at all. So for our second tip, we will be working on that. Now you may be wondering, how does cleaning help boredom? It sounds more of a chore and something not fun, rather than something that is fun. My explanation to that is because after you finish cleaning something, whether it's your room, your workspace, whatever it is, you will feel a sense of accomplishment after the fact, which will put you in a more elevated and happier mood. This feeling of accomplishment really does make you feel good about yourself and what you can achieve, and then you realize, hey, my room doesn't have to look like a pigsty all the time. And usually a cleaner workspace does correlate to more productivity and getting your done. So for now, I am going to try and attempt to clean up my room and make it look presentable and see how we feel after the fact. Let's go. And just like that, we are done cleaning. This room is looking a lot better than it usually ever does. Granted, it's not as perfect as it should be. At the same time, it doesn't have to be. It just needs to be in a state where you're happy with it and you're ready to start working and get stuff done. And on the plus side, you just killed some good time out of your boredom and did something pretty productive. So with that said, let's move on to our next tip, which is reading. So I've recently got a lot more into reading this past year after seeing how so many successful entrepreneurs and leaders and billionaires, millionaires, the one thing they all have in common is that they read. Now, me personally, I think reading is a great way to absorb knowledge from people who have been where you're trying to go, and you get to learn from their mistakes, which in the end saves you time on making those mistakes yourself. How great would it be if you were to learn from Bill Gates on how he made his millions, or Elon Musk on how he got to where he is? And by combining all of these aspects from different people who've made it, you can develop your own formula and your own path to get to where you want to go in a shorter time possible and a more efficient way possible. Me personally, I love reading self-help books, business books, finance books, real estate books, anything in that finance business realm, because that's the path that I'm trying to go down and further develop myself. But it's also okay for you to read a nonfiction book, anything that lets you escape this current reality into a different one to either entertain yourself or educate yourself. By doing that, you are doing a much better job of utilizing your time and killing that boredom that you're suffering from. And my final tip on what to do when you're bored, just do something fun. I know it's a little cliche and kind of obvious, but I'm sure there's something that you can do right now in your room that you consider fun that will just help you escape your boredom. For me personally, the most fun thing I can do in my bedroom right now is to play with this balance board. And I understand that not everybody is gonna have a balance board in their bedroom, but the point is, find something that you consider fun and just do it. Give yourself some enjoyment, have some fun with whatever it is. And after you've had your fun, then you can go back into doing some work and being productive, and you'll forget the fact that you were ever bored to begin with. Okay, so we've just went over a few tips on how to cure your boredom and what to do when you are feeling bored, specifically in your bedroom. But I also want to go over some tips of what not to do when you're bored, because there are a bunch of things that we shouldn't be doing that I know we do when we get bored. The first thing that I highly recommend you don't do when you're feeling bored is binge eating. When you're feeling bored, it can be very tempting to grab whatever you see in plain sight and just start eating. Now, I'm not saying you should be starving yourself, but you should understand the difference of being hungry versus being bored and eating. I've caught myself doing this numerous times where I find myself bored, and instead of doing something that's productive, I just go out and eat. I'll go to the kitchen, make a quick snack, or even a meal sometimes, and just start eating, even though I know that I'm not hungry. Whenever you do feel that you're hungry or you think you're hungry, you're actually just thirsty. Pro tip, always have a water bottle with you so that you can cure that hunger. It's really just thirst. Clearly, I thought I was hungry today, but actually was just thirsty. So yes, tip 1 of what not to do when you're bored is to binge eat and boredom eat, because you're only gonna gain more weight, feel more sluggish, continue eating, you're just gonna be more bored after that too. Tip 2 of what not to do when you're bored is to binge watch YouTube or Netflix. I'm sure I'm not alone when I say that I will go down a deep rabbit hole of YouTube when I'm watching a random video that leads me to another random video, leads me to another one and another one of videos that I really didn't know I even wanted to watch. YouTube has this pretty cool power of leading you down these rabbit holes to watch things that you never wanted to watch. It's just a never-ending cycle, so don't fall for this trap. Try to stay away from the computer or your device and go do one of the other tips that I mentioned on what to do when you're feeling bored. Tip 3 of what not to do when you are bored is to mindlessly scroll on your phone through social media. TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, it's all a trap. These apps are designed to take our attention and keep us on the app to continuously scroll and scroll and scroll. It is also like the YouTube Netflix trap that's just there to take your time away and slowly rot your mind. I'm guilty of this myself, don't get me wrong, but I can catch myself when I'm doing it and tell myself, no, stop it, go do a push-up. And my final tip of what not to do when you are bored is to sit down. I get this one might be a little bit different, but hear me out. I've noticed that when I'm sitting down, I am more likely to go on my phone, my tablet, my computer, mindlessly scroll away, consume content, not curing my boredom in a positive manner. It's more just wasting time. However, when I'm standing or moving in some type of way, I do feel better and somewhat more productive. Usually when I'm standing, I'm more inclined to do some type of work, which will lead me to be less bored. But once I'm sitting and get relaxed, it's more tempting to jump on YouTube or Netflix and just start consuming content wherever it is. Now, I understand not everybody can go out and get themselves a standing desk. But if you can afford it, highly recommend it. If not, set a reminder on your phone or smartwatch to get yourself standing every 30 minutes. I know the Apple Watch has a feature where it does remind you to stand up every 30 to 45 minutes, which is good because prolonged sitting throughout the whole day is not good for your spine or your back or your body at all. I really don't think that humans were designed to sit at an office desk at their 9-to-5 jobs every day. Just think about that next time you find yourself slouching in your chair thinking you're bored. And with that said, we are done with tips of what to do when you're bored and what not to do when you're bored. Hopefully you guys found some useful tips in this video and it provided you value in any type of way. If it did, I would highly appreciate you guys like the video and subscribe to the channel for more content. Comment any questions or suggestions you have down below as to the next video. And if you're interested in what a day in the life of a freelance photographer looks like, then check out this video here. And if you want to see how much money I make on Airbnb, then check out this video here. All right, peace.